What is up, kick and bass gang? Per the people's request, the bass generator's here, baby. In this video, we're going to be doing a breakdown of the entire thing. And we also got the Kick and Bass Patreon launch, which is going to have all the project files that I demo on this channel so you guys can take a deeper look at the sauce. There's 10 project files up there right now for you guys. Links are in the description. Let's get it. All right, so when you first open up the bass generator, this is what it's going to look like. It does work in both Ableton 11 and 12. And a key thing is it utilizes this macro knob, which is available on Ableton's website, or it just comes with the download. And the way that you set this guy up is you just bring it open like this and then just make sure to save it so your computer notices that you have it. And then everything should work correctly with the bass generator. Also, we do have a mini sample pack with 50 bass one-shots for you guys to check out as well in the description. All right, so first thing to note with the bass generator is this little preset window over here. So if this is a relatively new function on instrument racks, and what you just do is you hit the capture button over here, and then it's just gonna open up a mini preset window. So if we just take a listen here, we have a couple initialized presets, which are just good starting points depending on the type of bass that you want. So the standard, crunchy, got plucks, wubs, warbles, ooh, and then we got super distorted ones, which we're calling blasted, I guess. Ugh. So the rack itself comes with about 25 different presets that are just good starting points. So if we just listen over here, and we're just pressing the play button and then hitting the keyboard. So once you get one that you like, you could just hit random up over here after you set it, and it's just gonna randomize all the internal functions to give you a new sound. So essentially you could have like thousands of different type of sounds. And you could go to plucks. And then you could go all the way down to warbles down here. All right, let's go back up to initialize patch up here. All right, so there are 16 macro knobs, but you can only see 8 because they're doing the majority of the work for like dialing in a sound. So we have the attack right here. Oh, and then keep in mind, once you get something that you like, you could just save a preset using the new function, and it comes up at the bottom, and you could just rename it. So if we go back to standard, we have the attack. Then we have the decay to make it like super short or longer. And then the sustain just to bring it up. So I just like to start with a preset and then just mess around with the ADSR just to get it dialed in. So after that, we have the time scaling. So if we open up the rack, time scaling is mapped to time over here in operator. And what the time scaling function does is it just takes in consideration every single envelope and then scales it all at once. So that's just an easy way to get a different iteration after you have a preset dialed in. And then another cool thing that you could do is when you find something that you like, you could exclude macro from variations. Variations are the presets, or you could do the randomizations. So by default, these are not randomizable, just so you could dial in the sound better. After timescale, we got tone, and tone is mapped to tone over here in operator. And what this does is kind of the same thing as time scaling, but this knob is affecting the level of the FM oscillators to affect the tone instead of the time. So again, it's just like endless options in here. Nice. After that, we have the filter envelope amount. So this is just a filter control. And these are all good stuff to just automate when you have a pattern down. Then we have the frequency. and the resonance over here. So you could just get a bunch of crazy stuff if you just mess around for a little bit. And then essentially what you could do is you could just sit here for like 30 minutes and mess around, and then you get like 100 presets dialed in, and then you just resave it. So you have all those to mess around with later. All right, now I'm gonna show you guys kind of how I set it up so you guys can like experiment with making instruments like this on your own time if you want. It's kind of a bitch, but if you just put some time into it, you'll get it down eventually. So if you look when we press random, all these other values randomized down here, which is how it gives you just like an unlimited amount of different sound options. And the way I set this up was, so oscillator A is the sub oscillator, and then all the FM routing goes straight through A. So for B, we have the level and the coarse automated with a random knob. So every time we hit random, it's going to give us a random FM setting from B. And after that, I did the same thing with C. So again, the level and the coarse, which is the pitch of the FM. So it could give you a bunch of different options. And after that, a key thing with FM is the wave shape. So if we go over here to where the macro knobs are, the macro knobs are mapped to the wave shape in here. And the reason why I had to use the macro knobs is because if you were to map a wave to a just straight up macro over here, you wouldn't be able to set the limit of it. So it'd give you stuff like a noise oscillator, which sounds terrible when you're using FM. So that's why I had to use these macro knobs. So these are mapped to the wave shape over here, if we look. So when this knob changes, so does the shape. And I set it to maximum 87% over here, so it won't give you the noise oscillators. So we have the first one, which is set up to the B oscillator wavetable. And then we have the second one, which is set up to oscillator A. And then the third one to oscillator C, all set at 87. And you kind of just have to drag them all the way to the top, or allow 100%, and then hit randomize until you get something that you don't want, and then bring it back down if you were to set it up on your own to figure out how to set all that stuff up. Kind of crazy, but you could get some cool shit from it. After that, in the processing, we have a soft sine saturator, and this is just to give some saturation to the sub, because A is just a sine wave most of the time, and if you use distortion, it just crunches it all together. So that's just a little bit of distortion right there. After that, we have chorus ensemble, which just gives us some stereo width. So it's just a nice little bit of stereo width set on ensemble mode, and then just cutting out the very lows at 50% over here. After that, we have the OTT gain compt, which is just an Ableton preset with 10 on the output, and this just smashes all the frequencies together, so it gives a more full sound. Gives it that crispy top, my dudes. After that, we have the Everything Thick OTT, which you could just save from this rack if you want. Again, this just blasts everything, so it just gives you the fullest sound possible. On 68 amount over here, let's get this here. Nice. After that, we have a standard multiband comp, which is another Ableton preset, and this is just good for taming sounds. So if we have this off, the high end gets super gnarly when you saturate something this much. So we just have this to tame the highs right here, set at 72 amount. After that, we have reduce ambience, and this just gets rid of anything that the OTTs bring up. So like any like sizzle or crackle, just makes the envelopes tighter. And then we have another saturator just on soft clip over here, just making sure it doesn't clip out of the channel. And lastly, a little bit of reverb on ascend. So what I like to do is after I get a sound that I like is I'll just do some unique processing over here and maybe hit randomize a couple more times just to give us some crazier results. And then you could go back and hit random and just generate a bunch more presets. And then we have two final things for the mappings. So if we check, we have the phase mapped to random down here, and this is just going to give us like a subtle variation in how the patch sounds. So as you can see, the phase is where we start in the waveform. So when it moves, it just gives us a different starting point just for more levels of randomization. And then the last thing we have is this distort macro over here, which is mapped to the wave shaper inside of here. So this only works when you have a blasted preset turn on. So when you move it below 127, it turns on the driver over here. And then what you could do is it just gives you some gnarly sounds. Oh. And then just to come back to how to use it more easily, if you don't want to get too involved with it, is the knit patches are just going to give you a good starting point. And then from there, you could just hit random until you get something that you like and then dial it in. Yeah, you could get super crazy with it. All right, guys, that's gonna do it for the bass generator breakdown. Links below to check that out. And we also got the Patreon link in the description for you guys to check out the project files. 10 project files up there right now, unlimited sauce. As always, don't forget to subscribe, drop a comment, a like, so we could pump up the numbies. I'll catch you all in the next one. Peace.